Hello everyone, welcome to the Optics Part 2 session. I hope that you are fine and safe. So before we jump into today's lesson, let me remind you the mission of this channel. So here you will find many video tutorials as well as premier videos on physics, chemistry, mathematics and biology, as well as if you are interested in coding, especially like Python and Scratch. So this is the right place for you. Don't forget to subscribe my channel if you haven't yet, and don't forget to press the bell icon for not missing any future notification. So coming to today's objective, we will learn more about refraction, and within refraction we'll cover various aspects of refraction like refractive index, and we'll cover various numericals with it. We'll also see how refraction happens in convex and concave lens, and we'll also solve various MCQ questions and uh, numericals. So let's zoom in.
Now, what happens if the light falls on a glass or rectangular slab? So, let's take a torch and let's take a glass rectangular slab. So, let me remind you that a beam of light is composed of a group of rays of light. But for simplicity, we'll consider only one ray of light. So, let the ray of light from the torch strikes the glass rectangular slab. So this point where it strikes the glass rectangular slab, we call it as the point of incidence. So we will observe that this particular ray of light will bend within the glass, and this bending we call it as the refraction of light. Okay, so though we will see a partial reflection is happening, but for simplicity, we will ignore this partial reflection within this video. So we'll go deep into the refraction of light. Now the light travels within a straight line. So whenever it is traveling within the air, it is traveling in a straight line. Now whenever it enters the glass, it is also traveling in a straight line. And this particular term we call it as rectilinear propagation of light. So whenever it is entering the glass, it is again traveling in a straight line, but it is their process of bending happens once it changes the medium. So once it changes the material. So when previously it was traveling in the air and then it is traveling in the glass. So whenever the ray of light is changing the medium, then we can see that there is a bending of light. And this particular point, we call it as point of incidence, and the process we call it as refraction of light. So let's look into the definition of refraction of light. So refraction of light is the change in direction of light when it is traveling obliquely from one medium to another medium. Now, what does it mean? So let's look at the definition into more details. So change in direction means the bending of light. Obliquely means it is striking, the ray of light is striking the refracted surface at a particular angle, or the incident at a particular angle. And medium means different materials. It can be glass, air, water, etc. More importantly, it should be a transparent material like plastic as well. Now, why refraction happens? So we know that the light travels in a straight line and it is striking into another surface. So we will see that it bends towards a particular direction whenever it changes the medium, right? So here we will see it is traveling from previously in the air and then it is traveling in a glass. Now this particular change in speed of light causes the bending of light. So previously within the air, the speed of light is 3 times 10 to the power 8 meter per second. And in particular, in this example, whenever it enters the glass, the speed of the light decreases to, for example, 2 times 10 to the power 8 meter per second. And hence causes the bending of light. Now, whenever it is traveling in the air, we know that the air is a rarer medium and the glass is a denser medium. So in this example, this particular orange ray of light, we call it as incident ray because it is striking into a particular surface. There is an imaginary line, we call it as normal. which is exactly perpendicular to the refracted surface. Now, whenever it enters the another surface, for example, in this example, the glass, it bends. And this particular ray, we call it as, after bending, we call it as refracted ray. Now, ideally, if didn't cause any bending, then this should be the path of the light. But we have noticed that there is a bending of light. And this particular angle between the incident ray and the normal, we call it as the angle of incidence. And the angle between the refracted ray and the normal, we call it as angle of refraction. Now, in this particular example, the light travels from air, which is a rarer medium, to a glass, which is a denser medium. This is the first case. And in this particular example, the light, for example, have shown a decrease in speed of light from 3 times 10 to the power 8 meter per second to 2 times 10 to the power 8 meter per second. Now, this is case 1, where the angle of incidence, you can see this from this figure, is greater than the angle of refraction. So now let's embed this concept within our mind, that when the light travels from the rarer medium to the denser medium, here the rarer medium is air and denser medium is glass, the speed of light decreases and hence it bends towards the normal. Now, do you think that the other way is possible? Let's see the second case. So let's think that the light or the incident ray is traveling from glass to air. So this particular blue ray now becomes the incident ray. So it is actually traveling from the denser medium to the rarer medium. Okay. So now here we will see that the bending of light is happening because it is changing the medium, but the refracted ray bends away from the normal, because we see that ideally the dotted lines should be the line of, or the ray of the light should have traveled if there is no bending. So the refracted ray bends or moves away from the normal. So here the speed of light increases. When it increases, when it is traveling from denser medium to rarer medium. So our observation is that the light bends away from the normal when it is traveling from denser medium to rarer medium. And in this case, interestingly, the relationship between the angle of incidence and the angle of refraction is that, guess what? Can you think of it? I'm sure that you are thinking it correctly. And here the angle of incidence is less than angle of refraction. So this is the case 2. So let's embed this concept within our mind, that when the light travels from the denser medium like glass to a rarer medium like air, the speed of light increases and hence the light bends away from the normal, right? Now there is a possibility of a case 3. Now what happens when the incident ray is falling along the normal? Now here let's imagine that this is a normal which is perpendicular to the refracted surface, and the incident ray is right away moving along it. Now we will observe that the refracted ray is also moving along the normal. So can you guess the relationship between the angle of incidence and the angle of refraction? Come on, which one is the correct answer? Write me in the chat now. So when the incident ray is striking at perpendicularly along the normal, what is the relationship between the angle of incidence and the angle of refraction? I'm sure that you have answered it correctly. Here, the angle of incidence and the angle of refraction will be equal. And what is the value? It is 0. And here, both the normal and the incident ray are overlapping with each other. And hence, the value will be 0. The same is the case for the refracted angle. So, those who have answered it correctly, well done. Awesome. Now, let's go into details on what is the law of refraction. Just like law of reflection, we have the law of refraction. So the refraction law states that the incident ray, normal, and the refracted ray lie on the same plane. And the second law is that the ratio of the sine of the angle of incidence and the sine of the angle of refraction is constant for a given pair of medium. So for a given pair of medium, like if we consider it as glass and air, so this is a pair of medium. So this value, that is sine of incident angle of incidence divided by sine of angle of refraction, will be constant. And this will be equal to v1 by v2, where v1 is the velocity of the light in the first medium and v2 is the velocity of the light in the second medium. And I'm sure that you know what is this constant called? It is called refractive index. So we can conclude that for a given pair of medium, the refractive index is constant. So here, to go into more detail, the refractive index of glass, for example, or of any medium will be the speed of light in vacuum divided by speed of light in that medium. Okay. So this is the property of every medium or property of every material. They have a particular value of refractive index. So this can be related, and we know that the refraction happens because of the change in speed of light. And hence we can write down this formula as refractive index will be equal to, of any medium will be equal to speed of light in the vacuum divided by speed of light in that medium. Okay, let's do some examples that will clarify our concept. So let's take the example of diamond. So as I told, that refractive index is a property of every material. So the value of refractive index for diamond is 2.42. Now, what to understand by 2.42 refractive index of diamond? So let's look into this particular problem. So whenever a light strikes the diamond, for example, there is a change of speed of light, you know already, and it causes a bending of light. So we know that the refractive index describes actually how fast the light travels in the medium. So based on the formula just now learned, that the refractive index will be equal to the speed of light in vacuum divided by speed of light in this particular medium. Okay, so now this value is, for example, n is given as 2.42. So let's substitute it. So we can write 2.42 will be equal to speed of light in vacuum divided by speed of light in diamond. So we can calculate the speed of light in diamond just by cross multiplication. So we can just put Vd into this particular left hand side, and we can write that C divided by 2.42 is the value of the velocity of the light in diamond. So the refraction causes changing. Now, how far it is changing? It is changing more or changing less, or what is the value of this particular velocity of light in that particular medium? We can calculate using this value of refractive index. And this value comes out for this example as 1.23. So 3 divided by 2.42 is 1.23 times 10 to the power 8 meter per second. So this is the velocity of light in diamond. Now students, get ready with a paper and pen. I'll be giving you a problem very shortly. So let's take the second example. So the refractive index of water is 1.33. Okay, so what does it mean by 1.33 value? Just now we discussed that this value helps us to understand how the speed of light decreases. Okay, so as here the incident ray is striking the water surface and it is bending, and it happens because there is a decrease in speed of light. So the velocity of light in water is decreasing by 1.33 times as compared to air. So this is the significance of the refractive index. Okay, so my question to you is now, if the refractive index of water is 1.33, calculate the speed of light in water. So there is a change in speed of light, and the refractive index value is given as 1.33. Calculate the speed of light in water. Speed of light in water. Calculate and write the answer in the chat. We can use a calculator. So again, I'm providing you some time for it. If the refractive index of water is 1.33, just like how we calculated the speed of light in diamond, calculate the speed of light in water. Okay. So I'm sure that you have answered it correctly. And the correct answer is 2.26 times 10 to the power 8 meter per second. And we'll use the same formula. Just now we used it. So what is refractive index? Refractive index is speed of light in vacuum divided by the speed of light in the particular medium. And here the medium is water, right? So here, if we calculate 3 times 10 to the power 8 divided by 1.33, the value comes out to be 2.26 times 10 to the power 8 meter per second. So students, awesome. Well done. Okay. Now, let's compare the refractive index of two mediums. So for example, the refractive index of water with respect to glass. Now, what does it mean? So the water with respect to glass. Now, whenever we are comparing, that means we are finding out a ratio, right? So we can write down that water with respect to glass means we can write NWG. So W for water, G for glass. So this is a ratio now. And here we can write the refractive index of water divided by refractive index of glass, right? And this we call it as relative refractive index because we are comparing, we are finding out a relationship. Now, what is NW? We can now, from the formula just now learned, we can write C divided by VW, that is the speed of light in vacuum divided by speed of light in water. And in denominator, we can write C divided by V of G. V of G means the velocity of light in glass. Now, C will get cancelled out. And your answer will be velocity of light in glass divided by velocity of light in water. Okay. So, students, here you can understand a very important relationship that N of 1, 2, that is refractive index of first medium with respect to the second medium, we can write down as refractive index of first medium divided by refractive index of second medium. But now in terms of velocity, it just gets reversed. That means we can write velocity of the light in second medium divided by velocity of light in first medium. So it is just reversing. So similarly, if we want to write, for example, refractive index of second medium with respect to first medium, we can simply write refractive index of second medium divided by refractive index of first medium, which we can write generalize as velocity of light in first medium divided by velocity of light in second medium. Just think of the reciprocal. So velocity and refractive index are reciprocal. And here we have learned how to calculate or understand by relative refractive index. Okay, just remember that. Okay, now let's go into details on refraction by spherical lenses. Okay, so what happens if you hold a pencil, simple pencil, in front of a convex lens or a concave lens? Now imagine you are holding a pencil in front of a convex lens and a concave lens. What will happen? So how the image is going to look like for both the cases. So this is how what we'll look into some within future video, in this video only. Now, if you have missed watching the particular optics part 1, I would advise you please watch it before, because some concepts we will be reusing it in this particular video. So I will provide the link of the video of optics part 1 within the description, so you can have a look. So just like in this previous video, that the light ray have some specific rules for mirrors, the light ray also have some rule for lenses. So first, let's investigate into these rules. So what is the first lens we are going to consider? That is a convex lens. And convex means what? It's bulged from outside. It is bulged from outside. So this is a lens which is bulged from outside for both the ends, or both the surfaces are bulged. Okay. Now here, if parallel beam of light strikes this lens, then all the rays of light converge at a particular point on the other side of the lens. Okay. And hence, this convex lens, we also call it as converging lens. Why converging lens? Because all the rays, all the refracted rays converge or meet at a particular point. Okay. So let's consider, while drawing the ray diagram, we have to think of specific rules or the terms. Let me first give you a brief description on the terms. So this particular imaginary line, we call it as principal axis. And this point we call it as, for example, any point we call it as optical center. And we have to take a ruler first, and we have to draw equidistant points on one side of the optical center. So let it be 2 centimeter or 2.5 centimeter in this example. So first point will be 2.5 and second one will be 5 centimeter. And we can write it as, or label these points as F2 and 2F2. Similarly, we can write or take two other points on the other side of the optical center. We call it as F1 and 2F. Now we'll place the particular lens on exactly in the center of the optical center. Now F1 and F2 are the principal foci. Okay. And let's place a thin convex lens right at the middle of the optical center. Now, what happens about the rules? Because these rules are very, very important. Let me remind you, in the previous video, we had seen some standard incident rays. So there are a lot of rays of, that is traveling or reflecting back from any object. There are infinite rays. So while considering the ray diagram, we'll consider only and only two rays, because these two rays are enough for drawing an image. And we will consider specific rules while selecting which rays we will take. So the first rule is that whenever a ray of light is parallel to the principal axis, after refraction passes through the focus on the other side of the lens. So what do you mean by that? So whenever a ray of light is incident on the lens, which is parallel to the principal axis, it travels through the focus on the other side of the lens. So this is the first rule. The second rule is that whenever the ray of light is passing through the optical center, okay, of the lens, goes straight without any deviation. So whenever the light is passing through the optical center, there is no deviation at all. Okay, so the refracted ray, the path is the same. It is similar to the case what happens when the incident ray is obliquely falling or along the normal. So it's falling along the normal. So there is no deviation, right? So it's similar in case. So this is the second rule that we'll consider. And the third rule is that a ray of light, when passes through the focus, the first focus, after refraction becomes parallel to the principal axis. So these are the three rules. And you remember that while we considering three rules, we will only select two rays. So we will only consider two convenient rules. Based on our convenience, we can choose the two rules. So we will choose only two rays while drawing the ray diagram. Okay. So choose two out of three. Now the first case. So let's place the object beyond 2F1. So 2F1 is a position which is equidistant now, and we are placing the object, or for example, in this case, a pencil, beyond 2F1. So let's see what happens. Now we will consider the ray which is passing from the head of the object. So in this particular example, we can see that this particular ray is striking the convex lens, and we have considered the first rule, that is the ray which is parallel to the principal axis passes through the focus. So this is the first ray we have chosen. The second ray that we have chosen is that the ray which passes through the optical center doesn't deviate. So we can see that these two refracted rays meet at this particular common point. Now, can you guess what is the significance of this point? I'm sure that you are able to guess it properly. The particular image is formed at this point. And remember, the incident rays have started from the head of the object. So the meeting point will be the head of the image. So the image will be right inverted here. Okay. So now students, guess and think logically. Can you write me in the chat what is the correct property of the image? So your options are real and inverted. Inverted means upside down, virtual and erect, diminished, magnified, same size. So you can choose more than one option. Write the correct answer in the chat. What is the property or correct property of the image formed? Whether it is real and inverted, whether it is virtual and erect, whether it is diminished, whether it's magnified, whether it's same size. Write down the answer in the chat. I'm sure that you have answered it correctly and your option A and option C is the right answer here. That means the property of the image formed when the object is beyond 2f1 is that they are real and inverted, and it is diminished, means it's smaller in size. Okay. And the position of the image is between f2 and 2f2. So within these two locations, the image will be formed when the object is beyond 2f1. Now let's take the second case. Let's place the object at 2f1. So let's drag it at 2f1 position, the object, and we'll consider the head of the object while considering the incident ray. And remember, we have to choose any two rules. So we have considered the first rule as the first choice. So this particular ray, which is parallel to the incident ray, is passing through the second focus. And the second ray that we have chosen is that which doesn't cause any deviation and passes through the optical center. And these two refracted rays meet at this particular point. And this particular point will be the head of the object. So again, we will get this particular image. So you can notice whenever the object is at 2f1, we get the image at 2f2. Okay. Now, students, guess. Which of the following is the correct property of the image? You can choose more than one option. Write down the answer in the chat. For when the object is placed at 2f1, what is the correct property of the image formed? Write down the answer in the chat. Come on, students, participate, and I'm hoping that you are giving the right answer. So the right answer is real and inverted, and it is of same size. So the object is of same size when it is placed at 2f1. So now let's consider embed these two concepts within our mind, that whenever the object is placed beyond 2f1, we get the image at between f2 and 2f2. Okay, and the image properties, it is inverted and real. Okay, and it is diminished. It is smaller in size. Now, whenever we drag it to 2f1, then we see that the object size is same. That is, the object height and the image height will be same. And secondly, the object position will be at 2f2. So if the object position is at 2f1, then the image position is at 2f2. Okay. And one important thing that you should notice here, that the image is moving away from the focus. So whenever we are dragging the object towards the lens, the image is also dragging away from the lens. So here before it was between f2 and 2f2, and in the second case it has come to 2f2. Okay. Now let's proceed further. So this is the third case. So whenever we drag the object further towards the lens, For example, here we drag it towards the lens between 2f1 and f1. So the incident ray is this one, and it is passing through the second focus f2, and we consider the second ray as well, which is passing through the optical center. Now, interestingly, here the image is formed right after 2f2. Okay, so and it is bigger in size. If you can see here, it is bigger in size. So now, okay, here we have, can you guess now correctly what is the correct option? Now I have given you already one hint. Now can you guess the other one? Write down the answer in the chat, the correct property of this image. So when the object is placed between 2f1 and f1. I'm sure that you are answering it correctly. Wonderful. Well, just keep on trying. And I have already given you one answer. Try to guess a second one. So I'm sure that you've answered it correctly, and it is real and inverted. So I already told you that it has become bigger in size. Bigger in size means what? It is magnified. It has become bigger in size. And it is real and inverted. Inverted, we can see from the image that it is inverted. So what happens when we drag it further towards the lens? That is when the position of the object is between 2f1 and f1. That means again the image moves away from the lens. That is, the correct position will be beyond 2f2. Okay, and the property of the image will be real and inverted, and it will be magnified or bigger in size. Now, let's further drag it. Let's further drag the object towards the lens. Let's move it at f1. So first focus. So now the incident ray is traveling and refracting it from the f2. And the second ray also we have considered, which doesn't get deviated, which passes through the optical center. And do you notice a particular thing here in this particular rays? I'm sure that some of you are able to guess it correctly. These two lines, these two rays are parallel to each other, right? So these two rays are parallel, and hence where will they meet? So whenever the two parallel rays, where do they meet? Yes, you are right. That means they meet at infinity, and hence the image is formed at infinity, far, far away from our screen. So it is formed at infinity when the object is placed at the first focus, that is f1. Okay. And the quality of the image or the property of the image is that it should be real, inverted, and very big in size. Okay, so magnified. So the property of the image is real, inverted, and magnified, and the image is formed at infinity when the object is placed at f1. Now, what happens when we further drag the object towards the lens? That means the object, we are placing it between f and o, or optical center. So let's write the two rules or the two rays and incident rays. Now here in this case, we see that they diverge. So the refracted ray diverge from each other, and hence we can extend the refracted ray behind or backwards. And we can see that if we extend them backwards, they meet at a particular point. And this point will be the head of the image. So let's think that this particular image will be in the same side of the object. So it is not forming on the other side of the lens. And you can guess the property already. That means the image property will be, it is very big in size. It will be virtual. It is not going to be real, and it is erect. That means it is not inverted. And most importantly, the image is behind the object. So it is not on the other side of the lens. It is formed just behind the object. Now, another thing is that magnified, we can see it. Now, what is the use of convex lens? The convex lens is used in magnifying glass. So this is one major use of convex lens. Also, many of the spectacles are made up of convex lens based on what type of spectacles you are wearing. So this is a major use of convex lens that many magnified classes are made up of using convex lens. Okay, so over to you. When the object moves closer to the convex lens, the image formed by it shift. Which is the correct answer? So the when we shift the object, of course, the image is getting shifted. So which is the correct answer? Come on. I am 100% sure you are able to answer it correctly. The image is moving away from the lens or the image is moving towards the lens. Whether the image is first moving towards and then away from the lens, or it is first moving away from the lens and moving then towards the lens. Which is the correct answer? Write down the answer in the chat. If you have remembered our ray diagram, I'm sure you'll be able to answer it correctly. And the correct answer is away from the lens. So once we move the object towards the lens for a convex lens, the image is moving away from the lens. Okay. Those who have answered it correctly, awesome, excellent. Now, for making you understand it or remember it more accurately, you can remember this simulation. Like the image is always moving away from the lens. You can see we are dragging the object near the lens and we can see the image is forming away from the lens. So just remember the simulation. Okay. Remember the simulation for your examination. And whenever we bring it further, then we get a virtual image. So when we get a virtual image, when the object is placed between focus and the optical center. Okay. Okay. Let's proceed then. Let's proceed to the next one. Next lens is our concave lens. So concave lens is cave from inside. So just like concave mirror, concave lens is also cave from inside, but it is caved from both the sides. Okay. So what is the nature of concave lens? So if you remember, convex lens has a tendency to whenever the refracted ray meet at a particular point. So we also call it as converging lens for the convex lens. Now for this concave lens, the property is that just the opposite. So the refracted rays actually diverge, and hence the name of this concave lens is also the diverging lens, because the refracted rays diverge each other after refraction. Okay. Now we will also, just like concave lens, we should remember some specific rules. So the concave lens, this is the imaginary line, we call it as principal axis. Remember to put the points at equidistant from each other. For this example, we have taken 2 centimeter distance, but it is your wish, your choice. But remember, it should be equidistant. Remember to label them. So one important thing is that if you remember, for the convex lens, we have taken the left-hand side points as the F1 to F1. But for concave lens, we are doing just the opposite. But in different textbooks, it's different. So for I'm considering it like this. You can choose my convention as well. So here for right hand side, I've taken the focus as F1 and 2F1 and the left hand side as 2F2 and F2. Remember to put them at equidistant. Now, for another important thing is that we will remember the rules just like the convex lens. So the first rule is a ray of light which is parallel to the principal axis after refraction appears to be coming from the focus. So we know that it diverges. So it appears to be coming at focus. So this is the first ray that is considered as standard incident ray we can take. Okay, so this is the first rule for the concave lens. Okay, now the second rule is that the second rule states that a ray of light going towards the optical center of a concave lens goes straight without being deviated. So there is no refraction or no bending happening. Okay, so this is similar to the convex lens, right? So this is our second rule. Now the third rule states that the ray of light going towards the focus, so which is going towards the first focus, appears to be parallel to the principal axis. Okay, so these are the three rules for the concave lens, and similar to the convex lens, we will only choose 2 out of 3 rules because 2 rays are enough to form an image. Okay, so let's consider the first case, that is case 1, when the object or the pencil is placed beyond 2f2. Okay, so let's place it beyond 2f2, and remember, we will take the light ray from the top or head of the object. So let's consider the incident ray like this, starting from the head of the object, and it is striking to the concave lens. Now, this is the first rule we have taken, which is parallel to the principal axis, and it appears to meet at the focus. Okay. And similarly, the second ray also we have considered, which doesn't deviate at all. That means it is passing through the optical center. Now we see that these two rays, which is appears to meet at the focus, and the incident ray, which is passing through the optical center, they meet at this particular point. So as expected, we will get an image or head right at the point. So we'll, just because we have considered the incident rays starting from the head of the object, the point where these two rays meet, the head of the image will be there. Okay. So here, remember the mnemonic Dev in our previous optics chapter or the video. So just like the convex mirror, it is same as the concave lens. So the Dev image is formed, D for diminished, E for erect, and V for virtual. So both convex mirror and concave lens forms Dev image. So this is the rule that you can remember for the future. So the image position is what? Now it lies between F2 and O. Okay, and the image nature or property is Dev, that is diminished, erect, and virtual. Now let's consider second case. Let's drag our object further nearer to the lens, just like what we did for the previous one, the convex lens. So here for concave lens, the ray is traveling as we have selected the first two rules. So we see that the same position, almost the same position, the refracted rays meet. That means you can see that the image quality is same. That is Dev. That is diminished. It is smaller in size. It is erect and it is virtual. So whatever is the position of the object, you will get Dev category image for concave lens. Okay. So this is the important thing that you will remember. So concave lens, whatever is the object position, you will get Dev image. Okay. Now, remember this simulation for better understanding. So Dev image, that means you are dragging the object towards the lens, and you can see the image is not changing the quality. It is diminished, right? It is diminished, it is erect, and it is virtual. And the position also you can see. The position is also between focus and optical center for concave lens. For concave. Okay, now let's see your understanding. So which lens is used in magnified glass? Write down the answer in the chat. Concave lens, convex lens, or plain glass. Concave lens means that the glasses or the lens is bent from inside. Convex lens means the two sides is bulged from outside, and plain glass is plain. So what is the correct answer? Write down the answer in the chat. We have seen the uses also. I'm sure that you have answered it correctly, and the correct answer is convex lens. Well done to those who have tried and answered it correctly. So next question is, which of the following is a diverging lens? Which of the following is a diverging lens? Diverging means moving away. Write down answer A, B, or C. A is concave, B is convex, C is plane. I'm sure that you are answering it correctly. Which of the following is a diverging lens? So the correct answer is concave lens, which is cave from inside. That is a diverging lens. Convex lens is a converging lens. Concave lens is a diverging lens. Okay, awesome. Well done to those who have tried and answered it correctly. Next question. A diverging lens will produce what type of image? A diverging lens will produce what type of image? Always produce a real image or always produce a virtual image or both real and virtual is possible or none of these. Answer it in the chat. For a diverging lens, now you know what is diverging lens, what type of image is produced. Giving you hints, diverging lens is concave lens. I'm sure now you'll be able to answer it correctly. And the correct answer is always virtual image, wave image, diminished, erect, and virtual for concave lens, which is diverging lens. Okay, well done. Now, coming to the for solving numericals, just like we have done for mirrors, we need to understand the sign convention of the lens. Now, the rule is same, but one important difference and significant difference between the sign convention of mirror and sign convention of lens is that if you remember for mirrors, whatever is in front of the mirror, we consider it as negative. And whatever is on the back side of the mirror, whether it is image or any other, so it is considered as positive, right? And for lens, it is not possible because both sides of the lens is in front or back. We cannot say that one side is front and one side is in back. So what we have to understand is that the object should be the reference here. Okay, and let's consider it as the object we place is always on the left hand side. So whatever is the object side, so that will be negative. And the other side, of course, the other side of the lens will be positive. And we'll put the same thing, just like what we did in the mirror. So we'll put the mirror or the lens in the origin. So, and we'll consider it with respect to the graph. Okay, so here, for example, in this case, for convex lens, if you place the object here on this side, then it is negative. So the object distance will always be negative. Okay, and object height will always be positive. But if the image is formed on the same side of the object, then the image is also negative, image distance. But the image is, if formed on the other side of the object, then it is considered as positive. So we have to consider only difference is that the reference as the object. So we will keep the object as the reference and we'll try to keep the mirror lens within the origin. So consider this graph. Remember this graph for sign convention. Okay. So for example, here is the lens. This is negative. This is positive. X-axis, horizontal one, and this is the vertical one, positive, negative. Okay. Now there is a formula for just like the mirror formula, we have a lens formula. We will be using it in the numericals. That is 1 by V minus 1 by U equal to 1 by F. Now you know already what is V. V is image distance. U is object distance and F is focal length. Now what is image distance? Just let me recall you the distance between the image and the optical center. Okay, it's the image distance. And U is the object distance, means the distance between the object and the optical center. So, and F is the focal length, you know already. So whether you consider it as F1 or F2, the length will be same because they're equidistant. So the focal length is F. Now, another thing, a formula that we need for the numericals is the magnification. Magnification is the height of the image divided by height of the object, which we also can write it as V by U. Okay, V is the image distance and U is the object distance, and HI is the height or size of the image divided by size of the object. Okay, now many students are getting confused, like what was mirror, what was lens. So we have a comparison. I'll compare the two formulas so that it will help you to remember. Now, before going to the comparison, I want you to understand the simple concept, what we call it as power of the lens. Sometimes MCQs you can expect using this particular thing. So the power is the reciprocal of the focal length. And the SI unit of this particular power is the diopter. In capital D, we write it. So it is numerical. So F is generally as centimeter we write. So it is centimeter inverse, or we can write it as diopter. Okay. Now, just as I told that I'm comparing the mirror formula versus the lens formula. So if you see, everything is same except the plus and the minus. So the lens is 1 by V minus 1 by U is 1 by F. On the other hand, the mirror formula is 1 by V plus 1 by U is 1 by F. So mirror is plus and lens is minus for the formula. Now for magnification, it is just the opposite. So if you see, if you compare, magnification for lens is positive. Okay. So magnification for lens is positive. That is plus V by U. On the other hand, magnification of mirror is minus V by U. So just remember that lens formula, we will put minus, magnification we will put plus, and for mirror formula we'll put plus, and for magnification we'll put a minus. Okay, now let's do the numerical. So for this question, I want you to think and give the answer. Need not use the lens formula for this, but think logically. So let me read the question for you. So the object is placed at a distance of 40 centimeter from a convex lens. So think what lens is there, what is the object distance. So 40 centimeter, and the focal length is given as 30 centimeter. So remember, just visualize, try to visualize, okay, 40 centimeter the object, 30 centimeter is the focus. Now, find the position of the image, whether the image is virtual or real. So just imagine the position of the image. Do no need to calculate. Just imagine the position of the, position of the object. That means whether it is placed between 2F1 or F1, whether it is placed beyond 2F1, or whether it is placed at 2F1 or at F1, what is the position? Imagine and simply simulate. Remember this diagram, that simulation we have done. So simulate and try to guess the right answer for the image. No need to use the lens formula for it, but try to guess the right answer. What type of image is formed when the object distance is 40 centimeter and the focal length is 30 centimeter. So focal length is 30, object distance is 40. So 2F1 you can guess 60. So now I have given already the answer, almost. I'm sure you are able to answer it correctly. Write down the answer in the chat. Come on, try and write down the answer in the chat. What type of image is formed? I'm sure that you are able to answer it correctly, and it is real image 120 centimeters. So it is real image 120 centimeter. If you think that it will be real, right? So it is position of the object is between 2F1 and F1, and hence the image will be at or beyond 2F1, and 2F1 is 60, right? If 30 is the focal length, then the 2F1 value will be 60 centimeter. So it is just, you can guess like this. Okay, now I will explain you with the help of this diagram. So if this is the convex lens and it's the principal axis, for example, this side is 2F1, F1 and F2 and 2F2, all are equidistant. And here the given thing is that it is convex lens. So first strike into the, whenever you see a question, you'll see what type of lens is there. So it is convex lens. Now focal length is given as 30 centimeter. So you can understand, and 2F1 is 60 centimeter. And object distance is minus 40. It is given. And as I told you, while considering the sign convention, always the object distance will be negative. So object, we can place it here. So understand that it is 30 centimeter, it is 60 and it is 40. And we place the object right between 60 and 30, right? Because it is given as 40. Now we can solve it using the lens formula. So the minus sign will be there. That is minus 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. And hence we can write, just put 1 by V on one side and take the other things into the right hand side. That is 1 by F plus 1 by U, right? And then we can write, replace, just substitute a value. So 1 by F is 30. For convex length, the focal length is positive. Okay. So focus, we can write 1 by 30 plus 1 by u is what? Minus 40. And hence we can write down, just do the LCM. Do the LCM and you can get the value of numerator as 40 minus 30 and denominator will be 40 times 30, which is 1200. Okay, 1200. And hence you will get 10 by 1200. 0 is getting cancelled out and hence you get the value of 1 upon 120. So this is 1 by V. Now V will be 120 centimeter and it is positive. Now you can understand, if the V is positive, that means it is lying opposite side of the object, because object distance we have considered is negative, and hence the image will be formed on the other side of the lens, right? So the image will be formed right here. Okay. And this distance is 2f1. So it is beyond 2f1. It is forming away from the 2f1. Okay.
So students, we have come to an end of our today's class. I hope that you have understood the basic mathematical concepts on ray diagram of convex and concave lenses and how you will attempt the numericals. So I have two homework questions for you as before. So don't forget to write the answers of these two homework questions within the comments right below. So pause the video and write down the answers of these questions. Thank you for joining today's session. Have a nice day.